Round two, NHL playoffs. Let's get to analyzing it. Ted, Sports USA Radio, what do you have to share about your round one thoughts? Any inside insight that we don't have?
Well, none of you guys had to do a triple overtime broadcast, so you're off the hook. What can I tell you? That was a heck of a game. We had to do that. That was our first game at Sports USA. I do the pregame and the postgame, 5 hours and 35 minutes, guys, and I'm just starting to feel normal again. Yeah, I know. You feel very bad for me. I hope one of you at least want to play on that game. Uh, TBD, right? Anyway, look, round one was fantastic. There were so many storylines and 5 game sevens. It hasn't happened in many, many years. Last year, we had 3 game sevens in the entire playoffs. We had 5 in 2 days this past weekend. How phenomenal is that? And most of them were great games and a couple of overtime games. Look, it doesn't get any better than this. And to me, I learned that it doesn't matter what the matchups are in the playoffs because they're all playing hard. Anything can happen, and they did. The Kings took Edmonton to 7. Nobody figured that was going to happen. Uh, Unfortunately for Nashville, they couldn't even squeeze one win against Colorado. That was a disappointment. But Lou, how did you do in the first round? Because you had some predictions I recall very vividly from our last show.
Well, thanks for asking. And as far as the future outlook for my portfolio, it's rosy because every single future, that would be Carolina for the Whales in the Cup, Calgary for the Campbell in the Cup as well, a 25-1 Ranger for the Whale ticket. That puts tremendous opportunity between, if we know the brackets, the Rangers and the Canes are playing, I've got a ticket into the final in the Whales, which is nice to have. And those kinds of futures can be lucrative, as are these. Now, turning my attention game by game to round one, I find myself down a handful of units moving into round two. We still have 3/4 of the tournament left. The futures are working, but I lost units in round one, and fortunately it's a marathon, not a sprint, and my outlook looks very rosy based on those futures.
Can you explain what you mean by lost units? How did that come into play as far as your future bets were concerned?
I lost 0 units on the future bets, but it was more game by game.
Oh, okay.
Ted, what I do is publicize what my releases are, and I publish results, something that is very, very foreign in my industry. Now, Chris does it because he's a transparent and a professional guy, but very few do. And so I run a business, and we keep track of everything I release to the penny, because at the end of the tournament, I tell people that I win, and at the end of this tournament, I plan on winning.
Great stuff.
Well, the first round went okay for me. I did 4-0 on my series bets, which I was very happy about.
That's slightly good.
That was pretty good. I bet the under in every Calgary game, and I lost one of them with 1 second left, and I lost one of them with a minute left. So those were backbreakers. Like Lou, I was a little choppy on the game by games other than that, and just made a little bit game by game. What do you guys think about round two, though? Let's wrap up that series one talk. We know who's playing round two. Let's go to tonight. And we've got Rangers and Hurricanes, right? And Lightning and Panthers. What do you guys think about that?
Well, tonight we have Tampa and Florida and St. Louis and Colorado.
Oh,
yes. And
whoever creates these charts I've been looking at, it's just awful.
and I have Florida as well coming up this weekend. I actually have 3 broadcasts to do. Look, to me, I love the early matchups in a series because I think it's going to tell us something the way it may flow, especially now that we've had an idea of what these clubs have done so far. There are no major underdogs anymore, even with the Colorado Avalanche this series. The St. Louis Blues have a total shot to make this thing an interesting run. Although I don't like them overall in the series, I still think they're going to go at least 6 games. I don't see any major upsets here. It looks like a chalk for the rest of the way, at least in round 2. Your thoughts on that, Lou?
Lou, you and I are going to argue about the first game. Let's go to the St. Louis Colorado game. I've got to admit, I have a blind spot. I just don't see a reason to get involved in this series. I think Colorado should handle them. It's just a matter of how many games that they win by. Do you see that series any differently? Do you think St. Louis has a fighting chance here? Is there a way that you can attack this series from a betting standpoint? Because admittedly, I don't have one.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to agree with Ted that this series goes at least 6. St. Louis is not afraid. They've won the cup. They were the last team to win the cup before the 2 Tampa teams. And the one key thing, they're coming off Minnesota, and so they've had great time to prep against a much better team as well. They enter this game on 4 days rest. Colorado 8 days off. Now most people will say, "Holy smokes, 8 days off! They're all rested and good." That is a curse in game ones when you're betting series. I love St. Louis tonight. I'm taking them on the series just on disrespect alone. However, these DraftKings gives you great opportunities. So if you really don't want to take them on the series, how about series over 5.5 games minus 150? That's like stealing. Colorado's not just going to come and stormtroop through the rest of these teams. St. Louis has pride, and oh, by the way, they got emotion because last year they were swept by this team. St. Louis going to show themselves very well in this series.
I think they've beaten St. Louis 6 straight times. So
perfect.
This is a perfect situation for you, Lou, to cash in royally on that scenario for game 1. After that is another story, but you also said you expected that Colorado that series was going to go 5 or 6 as well, and we're still waiting for the Preds to show up.
And listen, if St. Louis wins game 1, that series all of a sudden comes back a different price, and you catch Colorado for the series.
You got that right.
At a much better price. So there's all kinds of ways to attack.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they'd probably be like minus 150 or something.
Chris would have a better feel. I'd say minus 130 to minus 160, something like that.
Yeah, I think about minus 150 or so, but I'm not an expert on the adjustments on that.
Right.
What do you guys think about the scoring? I do kind of like the Blues Avs over a little bit tonight. Do you think that's the type of series that could be a little loose out of the gate, or you see it being tight from the go?
Well, I think game 1s are always a toss-up in that respect. I think more wide open, but the fact that the Avs haven't played for a whole week, that might be more of a feel kind of a start to a game, and then you never know when it's going to start to explode with goals. So it's 6.5, I think, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, and just to explain this chart, these are the very best numbers that I was able to find before we did the show. So
okay.
And the sports book is listed. So
I think middle of a series, looking at the unders more than the O's, but 6.5 would be normally pretty good. You got Kemper coming back off the eye injury. He hasn't played in more than a week. You talk about rust as opposed to rest. So I would lean toward the overs, but I'm a little leery about a team off for a week and to see how they go.
Your thoughts, Lou?
Agreement. You learn a lot by watching, game 1. That said, I'll be on St. Louis in game 1. No total play.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a pretty nice price on the under at Bet Online to get plus 121 on a 6.5 in an NHL playoff game series, round 2. Just an amazing number for today's hockey, isn't it?
It really is.
It is, but I think we're going to see some adjustments soon enough as these series start to tighten up a little bit and goaltending becomes more pronounced.
I'm going to skip the other game tonight. I'm going to skip to Calgary Edmonton because that one I think has the third most amount of luster on it. My thoughts on this is I lean Calgary. I like it. I think the series price might be a little bit short. I think it should be higher. I worry about the Oilers. They've got some talent behind them offensively, but that Flames defense, they're pretty strong. What do
I
you
think the
think?
Flames are should be definitely a stronger favorite than the numbers show here. I don't like the Oilers at all. To me, just the way they had to go 7 games against the Kings team that really was not ready for the playoffs. And they still hung in there the entire way. They gutted it out. And maybe I'm wrong on the Kings. Maybe they were just a little bit ahead of the curve and I didn't see it coming. But I don't think the Oilers saw it coming either. And I think the way they allowed them to make that a 7-game series and as close as it was, I do not trust them against a much better, deeper Calgary team.
Lou, the goaltending is also important in playoff hockey.
No,
This Smith, what was he standing on his head the last series? There's a lot of people that don't have respect for Smith and think he's the weak link.
He's just
But he did a great job. Is he going to be able to do it again?
he did a great job, but he was inconsistent, and the inconsistency comes from the fact that they don't have really much of a blue line. This team is constructed with 2 superstars, one that's currently dinged up a little bit. And I do believe that Calgary has the wherewithal to know how to take one line out of this team. And you take that line out of the team, and then it's the depth of Calgary against the depth of Edmonton, which is a mismatch. I think there's a mismatch in goal, though I got respect for Mike Smith, who I got to watch here in Phoenix in 2011, battle the Kings in the Campbell Finals. So not taking nothing away from Smith. He's 41 years old with no blue line. I don't care who you are. You're not going to survive long. Bad matchup for Edmonton. I'm tainted by my futures on Calgary, so I'll be in a hurry to just maybe watch this series. But this is an under series, guys, because Calgary is going to shut that Edmonton line down.
I totally agree. And Mike Smith is an older guy who is inconsistent. But I'll tell you what, you do have to give him credit. He's sort of like Grant Fuhr was. I'll throw an old Oiler guy in there. Didn't have a great defensive club in front of him and gave up a lot of goals, but he always made the big save. So you can't look at his just goals against numbers. You got to look at what he's done when you needed him. And that's sort of been Mike Smith's career.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Calgary is going to benefit by seeing any other goalie than the one they just got from. Yeah. Calgary's offense could look pretty good in this series.
Yeah, and by the way, I think Edmonton's defense is a little bit underrated. The fact that when they made the coaching change, they were a much better defensive team the rest of the season. But the question is, are they playoff ready defensively? And to me, that they're lacking in a little bit in that category.
What about the play? This minus 149. I know you like to take the underdogs in game 1, but boy, that minus 149 looks pretty attractive. What do you guys think?
On Edmonton game 1?
Yeah.
I totally agree to that. My system really fishes value out of road teams, and I think there's going to be value in Edmonton at circa they what was it? They're still hovering plus 135 is what I track them at, 142 now. And if you just be patient and wait, that'll be 150 plus by the time they drop the puck. No question about it.
Yeah, I would think that minus 149, you guys would just basically, and certainly at least you, Lou, you would just take the Flames every game and then worry about the rest later.
Well, again, with my future position on the Flames, I'm going to be judicious. But I saddle up to road teams, and so I have no problem taking Edmonton against Calgary game 1 because the system I use spits it out, and I trust that data.
Now, the other thing to look at, too, guys, is the emotion of this series. You know, the Battle of Alberta, all that. It hasn't happened since 1991, I believe, is the last time it happened. So there's a different kind of a feel to this where you're going to see the fans. It's going to be crazy. And I give a slight advantage to Edmonton in that department because that'll get them closer to being more even with Calgary from the emotion standpoint. But on the ice, major advantage Calgary.
I think I'm gonna go with the banana in the tailpipe program and lean the Flames game one. So we think we might be against each other on that one.
I will say this one last thing on that series is the real winner and the real advantage goes to the NHL because we've been too long without competent Canadian teams for the last couple years in this tournament. And last year we had Montreal make a run, which was great. This year, these two teams, the winner is the NHL. And
yeah, but the scheduling pits them against each other, so we lose one of them automatically. So,
well, but the bigger gripe with that is Minnesota, St. Louis, not Edmonton and Calgary.
Exactly.
Rangers, Hurricanes. What say you guys?
I say the Canes are a much, much, much better team for the playoffs. I think the Rangers are lacking in several departments, certainly not in goaltending, but I do not see the Rangers making this. I think the Canes are going to win it in 5 or 6. And I just love the way they are built for the postseason. Rod Brindamore has got these guys geeked the way they should be, and they give up very little throughout every single game. They are so defensively minded. They finish their checks. They do what is needed in the postseason. I love the Canes in this series.
Not to jump on Ted's bandwagon, but they are built from the goal out. They are, again, we're polluted because we own them aggressively in futures. 3 times the last 3 years, they've been threats to win it all and have gone there, got their nose rubbed in it. Brindamore, the coach, they ain't no quit in him. He's driving this group. They have veteran leadership. They have a passionate veteran team. And lastly, we haven't even seen Anderson yet. When he comes in, it's like Willis Reed coming onto the floor. I'm telling you, Carolina is a real deal. And the issue with the Rangers is that they've already overachieved. They were a team that faced Pittsburgh that had no playoff experience. So they're going to be competitive. They believe they've got a great clubhouse that's really tight. They got Shesterkin. There's a lot of things to be encouraged about on the Rangers side. However, the Rangers played a team in Pittsburgh that gave up 4 goals per game against them in the last series. In the last series, the Canes gave up 2.86 goals a game to Boston. This is going to be a real different look for the Rangers, and I think a great learning experience for a team that next year I'll have futures every which way but loose on.
Yeah, and I think the Rangers also, guys, I'm going to piss off every single one of the New York fans here. But because of the fact that they won their last 3 games, the first team to ever in the history of the postseason in the NHL to be trailing in an elimination game and win the last 3. That was impressive. They did it against a 19th string goaltender. So I'm not overly impressed with that number. Okay. Just the fact Louis Domingue was fun to watch, but he ain't Patrick Waugh. Okay. And just the fact that they did what they did, congratulations. You're getting a whole different ball game here.
I think Pittsburgh outplayed them. They were very fortunate to make it through. They played sloppy. They, sometimes disinterested. These two teams are night and day. I'm surprised that the lines are actually this close. I like Carolina to come out strong. After the Game 7 the Rangers had to go through, I like them Game 1. I like them in the series. I agree with you guys. I'll tell you one thing, though. I don't understand the 5.5. It just seems low. As sloppy as the Rangers have played, and Carolina can score, and it just seems low for some reason.
Yeah, but Carolina is also a defensive-minded team, and they'll keep most of the scores low. That's the problem there. And don't get caught up in Chris Kreider scoring 1 million goals during the regular season, and he did well against the Pittsburgh club. It was a wide open, much more wide open game than you're going to see for the next however many games this series goes.
I couldn't agree more. This is 2 teams that strength is going to be in the net. And while Ranta wasn't the guy that we thought he's going to be, he has risen to the occasion and his team around him. And again, they just got to buy time for Anderson and then hold on to your hat.
What is the latest update for his return?
I have not heard anything on his return. My guess is that he would be back sometime during this series, but you know what? They're fine. They're absolutely fine with Ranta. Whenever he comes back, it'll be okay. I mean, unless he has an off game and then all of a sudden things start spinning backwards. I totally don't expect that to be a factor.
As well, I don't think they're rushing him back. I think they're telling him to take his time. The team's
Absolutely.
reacting well. They've been here before. They're a veteran-laden group.
Exactly.
Well, let's go to the final series, which is obviously, nobody has much interest in that and nobody is that opinionated. Of course, I'm lying because there's strong opinions on both sides. Where do you guys fall on the Lightning Panthers series?
Well, I fall on it as I think the Lightning, they're an amazing team. I love everything about what they do. They figure out a way to win. I love their coach. I love their goaltender, who doesn't, although he's not as great as he was last year. He's great enough. And certainly when after a loss, they never lose. So it doesn't matter. If you don't lose 2 in a row in the playoffs, you're probably going to win the Stanley Cup. The question is, how long is that going to continue? The Panthers, to me, are trying to prove they are truly playoff ready and Stanley Cup ready. I'm not sure they are, but the fact that Braden Point got hurt is a major factor in this series. It just simply is. One guy means a lot. He means a lot to Kucherov, and Kucherov is not the same player without him. So we'll see.
I'm waiting to try and break some ice here, but Ted's just all over everything. I really agree with a lot of that. Listen, to me, from the goal out means Tampa, except in the biorhythm of where Tampa is. They're trying to hold on for their 3rd straight year, and they're playing a team that they whooped up on last year, a team in Florida that was cutting their teeth the first time in the playoffs, like the Rangers are now. And this team in Florida is focused. They're fast. They're young. They believe. And I quite honestly think that clearly last year these teams where one guy was the leader and on the top and another team was an upstart. This year these teams are 2 ships going different ways. I believe this is boat race city, and Florida, I'm just hoping Tampa can stick around long enough to make Florida work for it and take enough out of them mentally to tax them before they go into the next series. But I think that this is a series, again, the DraftKings, under 6.5 games, unders plus 215. I'm on that all over.
Under 6.5 games?
Plus 215.
Wow.
That's
Serve
insane.
Me a double batch.
They're saying that if it doesn't go 7, it would be a shock.
And I believe based on what Tampa's been, that's correct.
That's
but
insane,
we're going to find out that Tampa spent everything to get past a team in Toronto that was ill-equipped to play in the playoffs. And so, again, I'm just hoping Tampa can tax Florida enough to take a little out of them before Carolina.
Okay, can I find my inner Gamble Lou, please? Because game 1 means to Gamble Lou, I'm probably going to go Lightning because of the situation, and then it's all Panthers. But it sounds like Gamble Lou has changed his tune on this one, and you're going Panthers no matter where the hell they're playing and when it is.
No, I mean, I'm going to take that the series goes under 6.5.
And that's all that matters.
And in game 1, my system says Tampa on the road, so I'm going to follow it.
Okay.
It takes decades for people to understand how to do that, but one is unrelated to the other.
I totally get it.
Okay, good.
But minus 160 on the series itself, I absolutely love Florida at minus 160.
It's a passion of playoff puck, and Florida can't wait to get to Tampa.
Totally.
Well, I see things differently, and
yes, you do, because you're from Hockey Town.
I've liked Florida the whole season long, and I actually probably would have been rooting for them. But they had a lot of lapses in play in the last series, and they can't take time off against Tampa Bay like they did in the last series. The fact that they struggled with the Capitals as much as they did, they were very fortunate to I was very fortunate to win my -1.5 games bet. They were gifted 2 games that they shouldn't have had. They skated through that series, and I just don't think that they had the demeanor to really stay focused all throughout each of these games. And I think a veteran team like Tampa Bay is going to be able to take advantage of it. Tampa Bay's won 9 playoff series in a row. I think that for you to be, there's a lot of teams that win 2 in a row, but how many teams win 3 in a row? And I think that is their goal. And I didn't realize that coming in. I kind of thought that they would kind of lollygag and, we won 2 in a row, whatever. But no, I mean, it's very important to hit that 3rd time. And it is going to be a little rough, but you've got the far better goalie. You've got the experience, and you're going to give me a price at this level. I took them +157, the Lightning for the series. So I hit the top of the market on that one. You know what? It comes down to this. Show me. Florida's got lots of potential. There's no doubt about it. They were the #1 scoring team all season long. But show me in the playoffs that you can do it. And,
right. And that's a great attitude. But for me, I'm all about projecting what's going to happen, not what happened based on history. And yeah, it's hard to win 2 in a row. Killer to win 3 in a row. Also put a 22% tax of extra games on those players' bodies who are older, etc. So I get you. I think we need to revisit this after the round because clearly we see it differently.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. There are playoff-ready teams, and there are Stanley Cup-ready teams. The Panthers have to prove to me they are both. And the first round didn't show a lot, but I still believe that they have the talent. And I love that they got Claude Giroux, who is the kind of guy that's going to be in the room and on the ice for them to get them slightly into that playoff/cup ready mode because they are good enough. The question is, are the Lightning good enough? Again, do not forget Braden Point's. I don't know when he's coming back and if he's coming back. But if he doesn't come back, I think that really changes a ton for what they do. And for all they've done the last 2 years, it is, you got to say, no, you don't. I have to say, it's old news now. It really is.
So with that in mind, we've gone through each of the 4 series. We've got 4 first round or second round matchups starting. Lou, what's your #1 play at this point that you'd have to put into action if you didn't have it in a ticket in hand?
I'd run right out right now, and I would take St. Louis, Colorado over 5.5 games in the series. And I would run right out and take Tampa Bay and Florida under 6.5 plus 215. I've made those bets. I recommend those bets, and I'm going to publish those bets.
And I feel that Lou and I talked about this in show #1. I'm going Canes and Flames in the series, and I hope they both lose game 1 so you can really cash in on them.
That's what you got me read well, Ted.
But that's the truth. And it fits like a hockey glove right now. Those 2 series, if each of those teams lose game 1s, you go to the window, baby.
You know what? I agree with you there. I think I have to, I think I like the Hurricane series bet the most. If I have to pick one out there, I know I advocated the Lightning, but that's more of a value play because you guys make compelling arguments, and so do other people that strongly feel Florida is actually underpriced. And I respect those opinions. I respect your opinions. And it smells fishy as somebody that reads a market well. It just feels a little bit too generous for Tampa Bay. So, while I do like that, and I've got that show me you can do it attitude, I respect that that's going to, that could go against me.
Well, I think respect is the key word there, too, because the numbers have to respect Tampa Bay. whatever the situation is, they have to respect them. They haven't lost 2 games in a row in 4 years, right? So you have to respect that. It doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but it's got to reflect the line. Otherwise, there's no value. There's no real number there. Especially to start the series.
So we've been through it. We've given our best bets. Anything to add?
I think that just like the NHL winning with the Edmonton-Calgary series, anyone that listens to this is going to benefit with some great knowledge, 3 varying perspectives, and then you do what you got to do.
Yeah, and Rangers at Carolina, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Sports USA. My pregame show starts, and I'll be all over it like a cheap suit. Hey, look at that. Even my book is still around on Amazon. Touch greatness, folks.
And where can people know where to find you, Lou, at gamblou.com, right?
Gamblou.com, GAMBLOU.com, and a great idea to put this together, Chris and Ted. Always such a pleasure. I learn every time I listen to you.
Yeah, and don't like this, don't subscribe, don't tell anybody else about this.
Correct.
Absolutely. This is a secret.
We'll see you guys again.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the hockey.
All right. Bye-bye.